Hello, welcome to the Kellogg Biological Station Exploring with Scientists. Do birds avoid noisy habitats? In this part 3, I'm going to talk about what it is to be an ornithologist and what it's like to do some fieldwork and data collection. My name is Elizeth, and I am a PhD student at Michigan State University. My first language is Spanish, which is why if you see some words in blue, that is the Spanish translation. So what it is to be an ornithologist or an ornithologa, that is someone who studies bird biology or bird ecology. What makes a bird? Well, they're animals, warm-blooded vertebrates that have feathers. Some of them cannot actually fly, and there's this huge variation in size. Some of them are very tiny, like a hummingbird, and some of them are huge, like an ostrich. This image shows some of the works that I have done as an ornithologist. And I'm going to start with picture number 1, which you can see kind of like that is an osprey chick. And that was the first job that I took as an ornithologist with osprey reintroduction in southern Spain. In this job, I had to take care of these like baby chicks and make sure they had water and that they were well fed. And it wasn't a really hard job. I just had to go there and feed them. But this is actually the job that changed everything. Because of this job, then I started applying to only ornithology jobs. And that's how I came to the States. That's picture number 2 and number 3. In picture number 2, I'm doing hawk monitoring and banding. And that's a job where I will be on top of a mountain, counting all the species that I saw flying. And in number 3, at night, we will study owls. We will trap them with these nets, take a few measurements, and then let them put them back in the wild. And even though in this case, it was amazing to study owls, I really love them. For example, with this experience, and then because of the experience that I had in Mozambique working with bats at night, for example, this is how I discovered that I don't like working at night and that I prefer to work with diurnal animals. Then in number 4, I'm doing songbird banding, which is very similar to what we did with owls, where you trap them, you take a few measurements, and then you let them go. There I'm holding a ruby-crowned kinglet, which is a very small songbird species that you can actually see in Michigan too. In number 5, I'm doing songbird point counts to measure species abundance. Even though there I'm holding one of the birds to take a few measurements, that is the job that I did for my master's degree, where I will have to count all the species that I saw and heard. But one of the things that I actually love the most about doing bird work is being able to do some bird outreach and education, like you see in picture number 6, where I got the chance with the Intermountain Bird Observatory to talk to the public about bird conservation and bird ecology. But my favorite thing about birds, and what I think makes them the coolest animals, is the sounds they can make, their songs. And by looking at these 2 pictures, maybe these are not the most colorful birds you've seen, and maybe they don't catch your eye if you see them. But even the birds that may not be kind of like flashy at first, they have really beautiful songs and they can do amazing things with their sounds. So I'm going to play the first one. This is a brewer sparrow. And I think this tiny sparrow that lives in Western United States, I think it makes one of the most beautiful songs, even though it looks brown and maybe it's not the bird that you stare at when you go to this type of habitat. But even crazier, if we look at the video to the right, this is from the lyrebird.
Even the original is fooled. He can imitate the calls of at least 20 different species. He also, in his attempt to outsing his rivals, incorporates other sounds that he hears in the forest. That was a camera shutter. And again. And now a camera with a motor drive. And that's a car alarm. And now the sounds of foresters and their chainsaws working nearby.
Right? Isn't this so cool? And not only it fascinates me the sounds they make, this also shows how important is for birds acoustic communication. So they have to vocalize to either communicate with their mates, to warn each other if there's a predator. Sounds, all the sounds they make, that's a really important part of being a bird. But birds all over the world are kind of in trouble because a lot of their numbers are declining. And these pictures show some of the many reasons why they're declining. So starting with the ones on the left, on the top left, we see a gas compressor station. These are the type of infrastructure that we have to extract natural gas. And the problem with these ones, and the problem also with roads that you can see below is not only the habitat loss, the habitat fragmentation that it involves, but it's also maybe part of the traffic, the collisions, and additionally the noise, the noise that they make. A road maybe can have some traffic noise at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, but for example, gas compressor stations are making this noise 24/7 every day of the year. And it's really, really loud. You can hear it from very, very far away. In addition to this, if we move to the middle images, there we have a city at night. And for example, some birds migrate during the night. And when they encounter all the cities with lights, they get very confused and they can end up crashing with some of the buildings. And in the bottom picture, you can see that even during the day, when we see all those buildings covered with glass that are reflecting some of the trees, a lot of the birds fly towards those glasses because they think there's a tree, but instead there's a window. And then when they crash, they unfortunately die. And this is very common to see like every morning in many of the buildings that are all glass. But also, if we move right to the other images, like I mentioned, habitat loss, right? We are destroying a lot of habitat, maybe for crops or to build things. And maybe another one that some people don't think about is cats. So there's an issue when we leave our cats outside, and they are responsible for a few of the songbird extinctions in the United States. They hunt songbirds very often. And that's why they're also responsible by why birds are in trouble. But in addition to all of this, we have to add climate change, and then we have to add pollution. But for my master's degree, because I was so fascinated by bird songs and bird communication, I wanted to know, okay, how does the noise from gas compressor station affects bird distributions or bird abundance? Now, I want to show you an image of, or I want to go to Google Earth with all of you to show you that you can see all these gas compressor stations from Google Earth, from the satellite. And this is the map of United States. And I'm going to start zooming in New Mexico, because those you can see very clear. And as we zoom in, I don't know if some of you already see it, there are these like lighter dots everywhere, right? And if we keep zooming in, some of them are empty, but some of them have a tiny or like a small gas compressor station. So every time you see one of those lighter dots, that is a place where there's a gas compressor station, there's going to be a gas compressor station, or it's an abandoned site. And look, I keep moving south. Excuse me. And there they are, everywhere. So this is crazy, right? There are a ton of them. So now imagine if each one of them is making this constant noise, what is happening to the birds? To answer this question, I did fieldwork. And I did it in Idaho in the sagebrush steppe with the Barber Sensory Ecology Lab. And I was only interested in the noise itself, because I said, well, when you have a gas compressor station, there are roads around, there's the infrastructure. So if I want to know how the noise is altering bird distributions, you could say, well, you can just go to a gas compressor station and measure how many birds you see. And yes, that will be an amazing indicator, but maybe the results that I observe are due to pollution or are due to the roads going around the gas compressor station or the traffic, right? So how do I know, okay, what's the noise on its own doing? Then I had to build a gas compressor station that was invisible. So basically only have the sound playing. This involved a ton of field work and a ton of people from the Barber Sensory Ecology Lab and even other labs that helped me hike it to the middle of kind of nowhere to the sagebrush steppe and build all the towers. So as you can see in the pictures on the right, we're building those towers with the speakers, and then at the bottom, those are the towers already built. And in this video, you see that we need to hike with everything, with all this heavy equipment, which is not fun. But again, fortunately, I had a lot of people help me, and thanks to them, I was able to do this project. And just so you have an idea of what this project looks like, or I guess sounds like, you can listen to it. So as you walk through the sagebrush steppe, through the desert, it's like if you're listening to a real gas compressor station, but it's actually not there. It's a phantom gas compressor station. And in this video, you can see my study site during the day, all of us walking to the towers to fix some of the equipment or to build the towers. And then once everything was in place, some other people, another technician and I will go there every day to count every bird that we heard and saw. Now, as you can see, I started with a passion for birds, and then I had a question, right? Okay, well, if sound is important for birds, what is the noise from a gas compressor station doing to them? Then once I had this question, what I had to do was, in my case, do field work to answer the question and collect the data.